Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig!
What you say? That you ran the running, shooting high school? Of course you did. What you say? Jayden de Laura, that you tore the beeves apart. All right, that's
yes,
my...
Yes, he did.
So I don't know if you got that, Jeff.
I didn't. I'm probably too old for that song.
Someone dropped it in the Slack. Roger Sherman, who writes for The Ringer.
Yeah.
He tweeted, "I've made the executive." So I don't know if you know who Jayden de Laura is. He's a pop
I am aware
R&B
of the name.
singer. So he is
very
famous for singing his own name in his songs a lot. Jayden de Laura, like that. And so Roger Sherman.
So I see where this
tweeted,
is going. Yeah.
He tweeted, "I've made the executive decision to sing Wazoo freshman QB Jayden de Laura's name to the tune of Jayden de Laura every time he does anything. It doesn't rhyme, but it's got a lot of the same letters and sounds, and I'm sticking with my instincts."
Same number of syllables.
Yeah, it works at Jayden de Laura. I can't do it. Jayden de Laura. So yeah, that was a Jayden de Laura song. Awesome. And then I had to throw in the part where he sings his own name.
Craig, we're 1-0, dude.
Yeah, and this is Podcast versus Everyone, 1-0 edition.
We did it.
I'm Craig Powers, and with me is Jeff Nusser. Jeff, we have to introduce ourselves. We're going to have new listeners because it's football season.
That is true. We're going to have all kinds of people who have never heard of us before, and they're going to be sorely disappointed when they listen to the show.
But hey, we watched a football game on Saturday night.
Yeah. Oh.
You know, a 4-hour football game because apparently the networks are missing some of that ad revenue cash, and every single fucking commercial break has to be 8 minutes long.
You know what was funny was, so I didn't notice it at all until you guys started pointing it out, because I'm writing the recap, right? So like for me, like an 8-minute commercial is actually pretty great. Like I'm like, yes, a little bit of writing time, because I cannot write and watch the game at the same time. Some people I'm sure can do that.
You end up not watching the game.
That's exactly it. Like you just end up not watching or enjoying or understanding or anything. And so, you know, I have to like kind of force myself to stop writing once the game comes back on. And the thing with football is there's so many breaks that you think that's, I can get a little bit done. But when you really try to break your writing down into 30-second chunks, like
you're taking notes basically.
That is not happening. So I'm not writing during the game. The commercials are happening, and I'm like, cool. So I can get a little bit of writing done during the commercials, and then you guys are all like, oh my god, so many commercials, and I'm like, really? I don't know.
Because I would notice, like, I would get up and, you know, go to the bathroom and I, grab something to eat or something, and or I'd be like, doing something for B or something, and it would just be like, oh, it's got to be back by now, and I'd come back and it's like, still at commercial, okay, go do something else, and then I'd come back and like, it's still at commercial, and then and then it just, they seem so frequent too. Like, I guess there was a lot of breaks, especially in the fourth quarter. There was a lot of scoring and timeouts and stuff. Like they definitely would use timeouts to go to break and stuff. It was pretty nuts. They're definitely looking for that extra ad revenue. But anyways, so
all
4 hours,
all the copper fit sleeve commercials,
yes,
and all the other garbage that you get on FS1 at 10 o'clock at night. But I'm looking at the thing. What was the official length? That's funny. It had to be just a hair under 4. Hold on.
It was 3:36. End of game 11:21. Yeah, because they pushed back to start.
Oh, that's right.
7:45.
Didn't kick off till 7:45. Yeah, that's why.
But still, 3:36 is long. That is long. That's like what it was. What did they do to cut down some of the time? Like some of the kickoffs or something. I can't remember. It was like running clocks for kickoffs and shit like that. But yeah, I remember when I was in college, it was like 3.5 hours, and then they got it down to like 3:15 for a while. Now, it just depends on what channel you're watching the game on.
Indeed, it does. So whatever. I mean, I went to bed at 12:30 after finishing the recap. So, I mean, that was not my favorite thing in the world, but it's all right. I mean, it's a lot easier to tolerate when you win.
Yeah, I definitely went to bed a lot later than that. I was just it was hyped. It was a good day.
It was a good day.
Let's see, but yeah, let's talk about the football game. Let's talk about Jayden de Laura first.
Let's do that.
There's a lot of
that's what everybody else is talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things. There's multiple players in the offense, multiple players on the defense that we can call out, be happy about, excited about, and then we can talk.
We got lots of time.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Jayden de Laura, true freshman, hasn't played a game since he was, since last fall for, high school, has only played practice,
high school.
He's only been in high school. So it's just his very first collegiate game. We talked about last week, if there was any defense in the Pac-12 that would be like the softest landing, since he's not going to get, a cupcake, this would be the best. And certainly I think that the Oregon State defense still isn't very good, and we'll preface that. But still, you still want your guy to be good against the bad defenses.
Yeah.
And he was, especially after a shake. He very much looked like a true freshman on the first couple drives. Probably
terrified.
Yeah, he missed some throws. He was very hesitant. But I will say, I think it was that first 3rd and 15. 3rd and 16, whatever it was, scramble. He scrambled for about 20 yards, picked up a huge first down. You could just see him. He was hyped after that, and because he came out, hit his next couple completions, they got a first down. They eventually punted, but you were like, okay, like you felt as a fan, you're like, okay, he's not going to totally screw this up. Like the kid's got talent, especially after that run. You're like, oh my god, like he's fast, like he's.
Yeah, I mean, that first drive was hilarious because, it's hilarious now, right? It wasn't hilarious in the moment. In the moment, it was like, oh, my God, what do we actually have, right? Because you had you're
like, practice season. It's just a practice season.
Yeah, because, let's see. Okay, so he incomplete pass on first down, and then a shortish run, I don't know, like a 4-yard run or something on second down, in which Liam Ryan decides to, I don't know, man, hit somebody, right? After the whistle, and so you get the play taken minus 15 yards, and now it's 3rd and 20, and so Nick Rolovich, I think wisely, decides we're just going to call a draw, and he does, and of course it doesn't really go much of anywhere, and which causes people to freak out about calling a draw on 3rd and long, which we'll come back to that in a sec. But it's like, but I was like, at the time, I was like, yeah, I'm okay with that, right? Like the last thing you need is the true like, if you put that ball in his hand, guarantee he's going to try and make something happen with that, right? Yeah. And that is the last thing you want him doing, is to try, from his own, 10-yard line or whatever it was at that point, or 7-yard line. I mean, it was, way back there. It's like, last thing you want that kid doing is trying to make a play on 3rd and whatever, 3rd and a million, on his first start. So, yeah, really smooth. And then, that second series, they get in that 3rd down. He scrambles, and which he would do a few times in the game. And from there, it was like, and the funny thing was, the second drive wasn't, they ended up punting anyway on the second drive, but it was like, at that point you could kind of see, all right, he's kind of figuring it out a little bit, and then from there it was rolling for the most part. So really good. Yeah,
and meanwhile the defense was on a hell of a start. But I guess we can keep talking about Jayden for a little bit. We'll just talk about how his game overall, the impressions. Yeah. But then I would say we could really see what he could do with his arm, but FS1 didn't let us see it.
Oh my God.
So
I will never forgive whoever is in the truck who screwed that up. I don't forgive you ever.
The first of hopefully many, many Jayden de Laura touchdowns, and all we could see was him throw the ball. Apparently, his play fakes are just that good. I don't know. Maybe there was a neutral zone infraction. Maybe they thought the play was getting blown dead. It was very frustrating. Just what looks like on the other angles, beautiful throw to Travell Harris, and we'll talk about him a little bit too. Travell Harris, first touchdown of the season, big play. You love seeing that. Travell Harris just absolutely roasting a nickel corner, which I'm very excited to watch the rest of the year. So it just, great toss, and then it was game on from there. The defense really, and then obviously we saw a lot more with his legs, and we saw him throw back-to-back dimes. Only one of them counted for his other touchdown pass. His first, he dropped one in the corner of the end zone to Renard Bell, who was in after replay, but it turned out the center, the center's name, Green. I watched a replay and just so I was focused on Green, and it was just a brain fart. He didn't have anyone in front of him to block, and so he just took off running forward to block a linebacker, and then you can see the linebacker it was either a linebacker or a defensive back, and he just points at him
he should not be down here. That's not legal. That's cheating.
But it turned out to be
it worked out okay.
Fine, because on the very next play, de Laura does his best Russell Wilson impression with a rainbow dime to Travell Harris again.
It's just bonkers. I mean, the dude throws dime to one side, one corner end zone on the one side, and then just does it again on the other side on the very next play. It's God, man, he's really, really, really impressive. It is funny though. So we've been obviously sort of spoiled over the last half decade or so with our quarterbacks, right? And we've had Luke Falk to a little bit of Tyler Helinski mixed in there, Gardner Minshew, and then Anthony Gordon, and all these guys are very polished pocket passers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Luke Falk was training to be an elite level passer from the time he was 10 years old or whatever.
Right.
The quarterback throwing coaches or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, and then you watch, again, Minshew, same deal, right? I mean, not quite, not to that level, but
still
training for a very polished passer. Right?
And he was he's a 5th-year senior by the time he's
right. Thrown a million passes, et cetera. And then, of course, Anthony Gordon, throwing motion a little bit different, right, from a baseball player, but still, just really easy release and, pretty quick release, all this stuff. And then you watch de Laura, and this is not a knock. It's just like a...
It was a little striking at first watching him throw the ball.
You watch his throwing motion, and he's got this really loopy arm motion. But he also kind of has this weird way of kind of flicking it right at the end. Right. So it's kind of this loopy, slow thing, but then right at the end, it's this real quick flick. And so he just, it works though. Right. I'm watching it and it's, he's almost kind of winging it like three quarters throw, you know what I mean? And then he kind of flicks it and away it goes. And, the accuracy deep with which he's able to throw like that, I think is fairly remarkable. He does need to maybe throw a little sooner.
Yes.
We saw that a couple times.
That's
if your motion's going to be like that, if your motion's going to be like that, you gotta maybe get it out of your hand just a fraction of a second.
Yeah, the interception he threw, he definitely threw late. Who knows if Calvin was actually even open, but if he throws it earlier, it's definitely going to give Calvin more of a chance to get the ball.
And probably not a pick. Yeah.
And probably not a pick because the safety probably doesn't have time to get over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
underthrew Calvin on one other one.
Yeah,
too,
he definitely was
a little late.
He was 18 to 33. So the completion percentage is not what we're used to. But you can definitely see where he's got room to improvement. I think those middle passes, those crossers, those like 10 to 15 yard crossers when guys are moving. I think that might be another. He needs to throw earlier because he's got that longer motion. So. We saw one of the first drives. He had Calvin like pretty open. Definitely, if he leads him on it, he can run. And we know Calvin can run. Even we've seen even with his coming off the multi-year foot injury battle. If he leads him, but so he threw a couple times where he kind of threw it a little bit behind guys that were on the move. So he's got some room to improve there. I do think his short passes he trying to kill his guys a little bit. We saw him he had some drops. I don't think the receivers were totally at fault on all of them. Definitely on some of them they were. Like Renard Bell had a pretty bad one, but then he came back with fourth down catch to make up for it. But we saw like Calvin Jackson on third down and go right through his hands. Jayden de Laura also threw the ball extremely hard for like an 8-yard
I was going to say, I'm not sure they were quite prepared for the 100-mile-an-hour fastball on every throw.
Well, it worked, on the touchdown. I think it was also to Calvin, the one that got called back mysteriously. Honestly, but that was when you want to uncork it because it's a tight window and he got it right in there. Right. And I'm pretty sure Calvin caught that ball. I don't know what the hell they were looking at. They must have had something that we could not see. That's my most optimistic.
They had
view
to
of
have
that.
had another angle, otherwise it didn't make any sense.
But yeah. So and then beyond all that, I already talked a little bit about it. Man, the ability to run the ball, and I'm not, and this is just not a scrambling quarterback.
No.
This is a running quarterback. Yeah, they were able to use him as a read option threat. He had a touchdown where it was totally botched. But with help of a good block from Deion McIntosh, he's able to just use his speed to get to take the angle to get into the end zone. We saw him multiple times run out of pressure. Like he is a little loose with that ball. That's a little terrifying. But he runs out of pressure.
Waves that thing around.
Yeah, he's got that like scrambling in the pocket that like Russell and Patty Mahomes and guys like that do. That. They just kind of they run around the pocket and one thing I was impressed there was times definitely you want him to take off with the ball more, I think, but you don't want that to be the guy's first tendency. Yeah. You want him to look to make the big play down the field, and he does that. Like he's looking down. When he's scrambling for such a young quarterback who is athletic and knows he can pick up yardage. Like it's impressive to me that he's still looking to make that throw, and I think sometimes he just didn't make an accurate throw, but at the same time, I love that he keeps his eyes up when he's scrambling, and there was a couple of times I think he bailed out the offensive line a few times. I think he only got sacked once. He definitely could have. If we had a statue back there,
oh yeah. Oh my God! How many sacks would Luke Falk have taken in that game?
Oh yeah, and even Gordon, who didn't take very many sacks because he just gets rid of the ball so quick. But some of that pressure sometimes is coming quick.
Some of it came really fast. He spinned out of a couple of them, or spun out of a couple of them where he was. I mean, he looked like probably dead, and he just sort of calmly, just did the little Russell Wilson pirouette, right away from. To go ahead and continue with that comparison, right? To spin away from the pressure. And
I think a lot of kids are doing that now. Like I think that probably. Russell Wilson has made that a part of football.
But that spin. the presence to do it, I think that was the thing that was most most striking about it as you watched it, was that just the presence was so clear.
Yeah.
And the command of what he was doing was just so clear. And Rolovich even said sort of after the game that, they'd kind of given him a stripped down version of the playbook. But what they did give him, he seemed, certainly capable of handling. And the ability to run is just such a it's just such an important weapon. I mean, so like something that was funny was, you pointed out he's 18 of 33. Like that's 55%. Like I mean, when was the last time a WSU quarterback threw 55%? I mean, it had to be like 2012, right?
Yeah.
Like it had to be that first season.
That first air raid, because it's been like 60 is a bad game.
Yeah, like if you're running the air raid and you're getting 60 now,
I think
now
maybe Gardner was pretty low in his first game against Wyoming. I'm not just off the top of my head, but like that's
maybe.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I mean, obviously, part of it is that in the air raids, many of those throws are just kind of gimme throws. I mean, it's you're throwing to the running back, you're throwing a screen. I mean, it's
there's definitely
that'll sort of pump up the percentage a bit. But I think the other thing about this, so my point was that like even though it said 55, it didn't feel like 55.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is that we in the run and shoot you're removing those little gimme completions, right? Mm-hmm. So 55% is probably close to what air raid quarterbacks are throwing when they're throwing the kind of throws that de Laura was throwing.
A lot of downfield,
sense, right?
10 yard plus or out to the corner type throws.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're removing the easy, dump offs to the running backs and the screens and things like that, right? So that was part of it. And then the other part is, because he can move the chains with his legs, it feels like, because the offense is moving, right? Like you're not, it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, he's only completing 5 out of every 10 passes, right? Like it's, you feel because the offense is moving, it doesn't feel as low as 55% actually is. And so it just was so like, gosh, it was just so cool. I don't know, like I can't think of a better word to use other than just super, super cool to watch, this different offense that we were super intrigued by, right? And like to see it come off and to see, some of the best parts of it and to have a guy who, clearly is, the moment was not too big for him.
Yeah.
And like all of those things just get you super excited.
Yeah. And to your point on, if in the air raid, if a guy's hitting 5 out of 10, the drives are probably ending, because that means you're getting 0 yards. And so you're not getting as many yards on the ground or anything. But yeah, he's getting, obviously they handed the ball off quite a bit in this one, more than, probably more than he typically did. I guess they handed the ball off or de Laura ran combined. It just seems that the percentage was probably higher on runs than they maybe typically would have done at Hawaii. But at the same time, he's, the way he handles the kind of, I don't know, the point of, you can tell that he's doing this in high school. That mesh point. The mesh point. So because there's so many play fake. There's a lot of RPO. I mean, when you definitely saw that first RPO, I'm like, holy crap, we run RPO now. This is nuts.
Yeah. The first time we ran it, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, like it didn't work that play, but it was just like, oh my god, WSU just ran RPO. This is nuts. Like, and it's like we're using all the cool kid new stuff now. This is fun. And so that mesh point, he handles that so well. The way he pulls the ball, when he hands it off,
holds it in there forever.
He holds it in, and that's that's key. You're trying to trick that defense, and there's so many. Yeah. I do love how many play fakes there are just embedded into the offense because of that. Like, and we've seen data on the NFL side that like play fakes work no matter what. Like play fakes work even if you have a shitty run offense. Like it's just. Like defenses naturally have to pay attention to that, and so he's play faking on a lot of plays, obviously, and it's just fun to watch him handle that part of it, and I just think like maybe like a guy like Cameron Cooper or a guy like Gunnar Cruz didn't have as much experience with that part of the offense, like just even that mesh point, because that's really, if they were doing the air raid the last couple of years, that's not something that was happening. They weren't looking to maybe pull the ball. They weren't looking to play fake as much, and because you don't see play fakes as much in the air raid, but
No.
yeah, a pretty rare thing. But yeah, so it was so fun to watch something new and just like not just the offense, but having a kid like that who can move and just a legitimate like you can definitely see him having games where he's going to rush for 100 yards.
Well, like you mentioned Cooper and Cruz. God love them both. But it's also like, could you imagine the game going that well with either one of them at quarterback, knowing what we know about their skill set?
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's maybe Cooper would have been good in the pocket, like avoid, stepping up, hitting play. Maybe they've been a little bit more accurate downfield or something. Maybe they would have started better, but neither of them have ever started a college football game either. Yeah. So
you'd be taking out the run. The run threat on the RPOs, right?
Yep.
I figure that neither one of them escape, some of those blitzes where dudes came running free. I mean, people were like, I saw in one of our post-game stories, somebody said, yeah, the offensive line deserves a ton of credit. And I'm like, they were okay. like granted, great, we rushed for all those yards, and that's awesome. Like, they get a ton of credit for that. But also, like, de Laura bailed him out of at least 3 or 4 sacks. Like,
yeah, we've talked about
by
before.
Spinning out or moving or rolling out. So I don't know that Cooper or Cruz doesn't take drive killing sacks a couple times.
Yeah, we've talked about before with like the transition from Falk to Minshew, and just the sacks went from like 50 plus to like 15. Like
right.
in the course
and the
of
line
one
wasn't
season,
playing any better.
The line wasn't playing that much better. I mean, maybe they were a little better. Like a lot of the line returned, but yeah, it was a lot of it was just Gardner either got rid of the ball earlier or was just better at avoiding pressure. And de Laura definitely is even a next level at that, because when he avoids pressure, like you don't know what's like the defense has to pay attention. They can't commit to the receiver. And they have to keep a guy standing committed to him. Like I definitely saw spies on him multiple times. Like, so, there was a play that he maybe could have taken off. He stepped up in the pocket and he looked like he had some room in front of him. And he threw incomplete downfield on the run. I think it was in the first half.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, dude, just take off, get few runs. But when you look at the replay, there was a spy like sitting there 10 yards out. And, when they're separated from 10 yards, as soon as he commits, that also fast guy is going to come at him. And so, yeah, maybe he can win a one-on-one, but also maybe you don't want him taking that hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's especially for just like a 5-yard gain or whatever. But yeah, I think there was so much exciting about him in this offense. It's like it's crazy that I'm just thinking like him in the air raid is like nuts. Like what he might have been wasted almost. Like, yeah. Like, because these legs are something we have not seen on a WSU quarterback in I don't know, like probably since like the 80s or 70s. Yeah. Like, I don't, like it's nuts. And it's awesome. Like it was just so fun to watch. And like you said, just the newness of everything, and that it didn't go poorly. Like they were scoring touchdowns, they were moving the ball. Yeah, it went really well. And let's talk about kind of beyond Jayden de Laura, which was a revelation, as they say. But that was amazing. That was fun to watch. But we have some players that were returning that had some breakout games in themselves, and I know you definitely want to talk about Travell Harris.
Oh yeah. So Travell, like my biggest thing about Travell was that in his first 2 years, like it was obvious, like his physical skills were obvious, right?
Right.
Like, he's returning kickoffs. You can see the speed, and it's not just straight line speed. Like you could see he's got a little wiggle, and he's pretty strong. Yeah. Like he's got, thick trunk. strong legs. I mean, and I guess he was a running back in high school as well, which doesn't shock me at all. And so, I mean, like, the problem was, right, poor guy, he's playing the H in the air raid, which is that inside receiver to the left. And for whatever reason, over the years, that sort of became the number 5 option in the air raid. And so anybody unfortunate enough to play that H position, which was, so Travell Harris recently, Renard Bell played there a little bit. I'm forgetting the other tiny little receiver we used to have. I'm like drawing a total blank on his name right now. Anyway, graduated a few years ago.
Robert Lewis? Not Robert
yes,
Lewis.
That's who it is. Thank you for the save. Robert Lewis was also an H. For whatever reason, that position just clear number 5 in targets, clear number 5 in yards, really not, really not any attention paid to it really at all in the air raid. And so, I felt like for a couple of years, his ability was really largely being wasted. I mean, I don't know if you remember that catch he had. Was it against Utah? I think maybe not Utah. I don't remember, but his freshman year, Gardner Minshew just kind of threw it up to him, right? And he made that play where he just jumps up and catches the contested ball.
I think that was Oregon.
Yes. Now
I think it was Oregon. It was on like the game clinching. It was like the game clinching drive in the fourth quarter. Yeah.
Right. When we were like kind of our butts were getting a little tight and whatever. And so, throws it up and he jumps up, makes this great, contested play. And so we get these, glimpses of what he could do. But the reality was, like, he just was never going to get that many balls thrown to him. So, and
he's running mesh a lot. Like, so
running mesh at times.
He's not running straight down the field, like, not using his, like, straight line speed that he has. Yeah.
Right. And, Brian Anderson had his awesome pre-snap read talking about, Y cross. And it's like, I mean, basically H is a decoy over and over and over again as we run Y cross, 10 times a game. So anyway, just not great use of his skill and his talent. And the run and shoot is because of the way it presses vertically, just sort of repeatedly and relentlessly. We got to see what Harris could do there. Yeah. And then to add on top of that, Rolovich going, this is a guy with some cool skills. What if I, hand him the ball a couple times, and to pull something that's not really in your playbook, like that last run, that's not a run and shoot play, right? I mean, that's a play that you've got in your back pocket for when you need it. And, it's a one-off play that doesn't really fit with anything else. It's just like, hey, we've got this one play in our back pocket that I think will work against this team if we need a big play, whatever. And so what do? They run a thing where Travell Harris goes in motion and then changes direction and then changes direction again and then changes direction again. And then it's like a little, I think Jesse Casino said it was like a counter tray kind of deal, just like an old school, counter tray.
Because de Laura and McIntosh both went left. Yep. And then, but like, great. Again, we were talking about de Laura. The handoff is just flawless. Like he's just left it behind him. It was almost like I was like, was that a pass or was that a run? Like he did it just so smoothly, and then once you give it to Harris, they ran it earlier in the game and he got 5 yards, and you're like, oh, what's that?
Yep. And the linebacker, if you watch it again, the linebacker and the safety both over pursue.
Yep.
To the side. And so then all he's got to do is he makes the linebacker miss, the safety
cut.
And then the safety basically ran himself out of the play completely, and the whole middle of the field, they were running, single high safety. That one guy vacated, just like I'm watching it, I'm going like, bro, where are you going? Like that was so bad,
dude. You got to sit back there.
Yeah, like he just overran it, and I mean, they knew WSU was going to be trying to run the clock out, and so he's trying to be ultra aggressive, but he just overran it, and Travell Harris just ran away from everybody, like just and then coasted into the end zone. So I don't know. It's just really like two things really exciting about it. I know I'm like kind of excitedly rambling, but number one, I'm really, really excited that Travell Harris was able to use his ability in a way that I think we all kind of knew he could. So that part was super cool. And I would not be shocked if he ends up being our most dangerous receiver this year. So that's thing number one. And then thing number two is, as much as I love the air raid, and I mean, my love for what Mike Leach did here is, well documented. And, Leach is very, hey, the system is the system and the system works, and, which is great, like 85% of the time. But the other 15% of the time makes you just want to like pull your hair out because it's Cal or it's Washington or, it's the end of a game and you need to be thinking maybe a little more situationally. Like it's just the stuff that drives you nuts, which, works out a bunch of the time. But when it doesn't work out, it's spectacularly bad. To see a coach just kind of, pull out something special in a moment that doesn't, that isn't part of the traditional part of his playbook, right? Like that part is really exciting. And I'm not going to say that that's anything's better or worse. I mean, obviously, Leach had a ton of success. So, like I said, we remember the failures because they're so spectacular, but
there's some spectacular ones. Yeah.
Yeah. But the success was also, beyond what we are typically used to as well. So, but this is just kind of refreshing, right? Like, yeah. And it's sort of what I thought when Leach first moved on. I was like, yeah, like it's a bummer because I like winning, but I'm also like, yeah, it's, this may be his run its course. And, this is only going to work out if Rolovich wins, but doing it a little different way. I mean, look, sports are entertainment ultimately. And Saturday was super entertaining,
Yeah. Yeah. And I just have to, I've watched that clinching touchdown multiple times, and yeah, you talk about that linebacker. So that's Travell Harris's skill set because he got that running back skill set where he can make those jump cuts and he just accelerates out of them, and we've seen him do it on kickoff returns too. He just destroyed that linebacker. Like I don't know if you watch, just follow the linebacker after he makes the cut. Like he kind of stumbles. And then he tries to get up, like keep going, and his legs just give out, and he falls over as Harris is like already on the 30-yard line and gone. Like it's hilarious. I recommend watching that replay and just watching the linebacker get absolutely destroyed. But yeah, to your point, absolutely. I think there was just something fun. There's just something fun about doing something different again. And I almost got kind of irritated because like. Petros Papadakis and then the other guy, they're talking about like, well, they were running the air raid, but this one they throw a lot. It's similar as well. But it's like, no, it's not. Like all of us who have been watching the air raid for 8 years, this is not the air raid. It does not look like it at all. There is, you're talking about Travell Harris pushing out of the slot, pushing down the field vertically, which is perfect for him. Like, because if you look on, like, his 2 touchdowns, he just absolutely, like, he's just going to get so many mismatches in the slot this year.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he just absolutely destroyed.
Run past linebackers.
Yeah. Linebackers and nickel corners. Like, he's and just
safeties
going to save. Like, yeah, it's just, he's like you said, he might be the most dynamic weapon because he's so perfectly suited for where he's playing. And then, like you described, we now have a coach that's, like, fine with, I have a weapon, I'm going to use him, because that was never something under Leach. I'm going to
get the ball in his hands, right?
Like, it was only like, when like Gabe Marks put up big numbers, that was more a function of Luke Falk really liked throwing to the right, and so he really liked throwing to River Craycraft and Gabe Marks. Yep. And it wasn't really about the offense. Like, no one was like, hey, we're throwing to Gabe here. It's like, no, you're throwing to whoever's open, all right? But now it's like, we have specific plays for Travell Harris, and they know that if there's no safety over top helping, which it's really hard to have a safety over top helping the corner and the outside receiver. I mean the slot and the outside receiver, like he's just gonna run by guys.
Yep.
And so because like on the second touchdown, de Laura very much just had the confidence that he was gonna beat him because he threw that ball early. He just chucked it to a spot in the end zone.
Yep.
And Harris got there. And he was still kind of covered. Like, it wasn't terrible coverage. But
No,
he's athletic. He's strong, perfect throw, strong guy.
Yep.
Dime. Yeah, so I'm super excited. Like, and something that multiple guys on our Slack pointed out. Yeah, only 4 people caught passes. This is
How
not the air
wild
raid.
is that?
Yeah, like, this is not the air raid in any way.
No.
Like,
And there were some guys did play. I do recall.
like Bacon played.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do recall seeing a tall white guy. So it was either Bacon or I'm drawing a total blank on the freshman. But anyway, yeah.
Did Hobart, was he out there?
Not that I recall.
I don't recall either.
Yeah, he may have been
One of the.
He may have been.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
one
later.
of the 32.
Yeah,
We'll see, because I do not recall seeing him at all. I
So-
do know that we saw Billy Pospisil
yeah.
on the hands team.
Maybe he shouldn't be on the hands team anymore.
Whoopsie doodle. Oops.
But yeah, so
Yeah,
I do
anyway.
think we should. We're getting deep. And probably gonna need a commercial break. So to kind of wrap up the offense, we gotta talk
We
about
haven't even talked about Deion McIntosh.
Yeah, we gotta talk about Deion McIntosh. Wow, like, so I don't know. I feel like he's in better shape this year in some way. Like, maybe just a year of playing time. We definitely saw, flashes of like the ability of what he did yesterday last year.
Yeah.
Because actually, I think he ran for 100 yards against Oregon State last year too.
Yeah.
But wow, like, just breaking tackles, some straight line speed to be able to pick up yards, some very impressive agility. Like, man, like, what a game! Like, you were, I think we were all like bummed and afraid when Max Borghi was out, but McIntosh just came in,
Yeah.
played every single
panicking.
snap. Yeah, we were
Every
panicking.
snap.
Like,
Every
wait, our
dang
best
snap.
player is out. Played every snap, was a huge impact on the game. I might,
Yeah.
one of the, I really wanted that touchdown for Jameer Calvin for obvious reasons, but
Yep.
I mean, it was nice that after that McIntosh got a touchdown, because he deserved a touchdown for the game he
Yes.
had, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, so little nugget about McIntosh that I heard from somebody who would know. So breaking news. Breaking news. So when McIntosh was playing last year, he was actually playing quite a bit under his listed weight. Because he apparently, when he showed up from junior college, he was essentially malnourished, which is not totally shocking. For anybody who's watched, Last Chance U, and you see those programs, like, those are pretty bare bones operations, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not, maybe they got some nice looking uniforms, but like, I remember like, the one with Jason Brown, the first one with Jason Brown, with Calvin Jackson, and he's like working the phones trying to get them some good looking uniforms, right? So like they could look like, so they could look good. And he apparently was super light and, and this was after he had been at Notre Dame, right? So like, apparently that year at junior college was not real healthy.
Yeah,
for him.
and he definitely wasn't. It's not just that he was light. Like, what he was missing was the muscle. Like, because
Right.
he actually looks like slimmer this year.
Yep.
Like, I would say he looks slimmer, but yeah, I could because he looks more like built, like put together,
Right.
and definitely the way he was able to break tackles.
Yep.
and
Was
keep
not
his
able to do that
balance.
last year.
Yeah, last year if he got loose, he could run. Last year we
Right.
saw that multiple
Still
times.
fast.
Still fast guy, but then, man, like, some very impressive runs.
Yeah.
And just, wow, like, if Max comes back, we don't know how long he's going to be out. Just two absolute weapons out of the backfield. It's like, Rolovich has got to be stoked on that.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple runs where McIntosh like clearly made it happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there were also other runs, especially as we got deeper into the second half, where and all those people that have been dying watching the air raid for the last 8 years, and can we run the ball, please? Well, you know what, y'all finally got it, right? like you finally got what you wished for. you could see like they were starting to really kind of pound it in the second half, and there were some pretty sizable holes there, some pretty sizable gaps. So yeah, it was cool. Like again, I love the air raid. I loved it. I still love it.
It's hard to watch currently in its current iteration.
Yeah, yes, it is. But it's still like, there's something to be said for, variety as a fan. Like, you can only do the same thing for so long before you really do start to get a little bored. I mean, like, well, you and I are Seahawks fans, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, we've been watching the Pete Carroll thing for about the same amount, 10 years, right? And it's like, I know last year you and I were both like, oh my God, I cannot do this anymore. This is terrible. It's the same thing. Run, pass, and the defense and da-da-da-da. Well, now this year didn't work out so well today, but it's like, the pass forward offense that they've got going on is just like, it's like this.
It's like watching
amazing,
a new team. I haven't been that.
It's like this breath of fresh air, right?
Yeah, I haven't been that excited to like watch Seahawks games in years, but it's just it's fun to watch, and
so
I think that's a good comparison. Yeah.
Provided we can continue the success,
yes,
that Leach had, this is going to be cool. That's what it all comes down to.
And we'll talk about that later in the week. But the defense is getting a lot tougher next week. So it'll be a much bigger test, but I think this was a nice place to land for the offense. Probably one of the worst defenses in the Pac-12. That's nice. Just get off the ground right there. But yeah, let's. We're already well deep into this, but let's finally take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about the defense, because definitely they deserve some praise as well.
We're back.
So, yeah, I don't know. Are you drinking a beer, or should we just get into the defense?
I am drinking a beer. I'll make it quick, though. I'm having the Citra Enigma by Matchless.
Oh, nice.
So, it's really, really good. It's very juicy. But it's like, I love it. Actually, so last week, the bubble wrap, I was like, this one's actually, this is really good. I really like this. So I wish I had better analysis for you than that, but
I had a stretch of knowing the head brewer at Matchless, but both those guys have left now, and I don't know who's brewing there now. I am drinking. I'm drinking a beer called Empy. So it's by Elder Pine Brewing and Blending in Maryland. It's a pretty unique one. It's called Imperial Radiance, and it is an oak-aged black lager. Now, I love the black lager style. It's just a go-to for me. It's not that common, but I just love to grab it when I see it. And this one was aged in an oak barrel. Like, there's a big picture of a foeder on the can, which is like a giant oak vat, which beer is fermented in. Oh, it's even got the common foeder brand logo. So I bet it was aged in this foeder. This is a black lager that they then aged in oak for 6 months. Not like bourbon barrel or anything, just like a straight up oak foeder. So it's just it's got these great, like, it tastes so good. Like, for a 6% black lager, there's so much going on. It's it's like drinking a great like stout with like the roastiness and stuff, but it's got some caramel, it's got the oak, and then but it has like a nicer kind of like easier to drink body because it's a lager and it's a little cleaner. That's what I love about black lagers. So way to go, Elder Pine. I wish I would have bought more of this when I picked it up because I definitely want to drink it again, but this is the one time I will get to drink it. Very tasty. But yeah, dude, let's talk about defense, which was definitely, particularly in the first 3 quarters, a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, they. I think the biggest surprise was that they actually were winning some battles at the line of scrimmage, which
absolutely,
was like, my head explode, right? Because we haven't seen that in quite a while. I mean, I guess last year against Colorado, That was the one game that was like, okay, yeah, maybe we're figuring some stuff out. But other than that, obviously last year was, the total train wreck. I mean, they averaged less than, fewer than 2 sacks a game all season and in Pac-12 play, which, given that they were playing teams that were needing to score to keep up with us and there was lots of throws, it's not a good total. So to see the defense get some pressure on the quarterback, to see them control the line of scrimmage, to the point where Jamar Jefferson had been held down for most of the game, about 2.5 quarters, and then he broke loose a little bit after that. But still, just to see the defensive line, actually do some work and see our ends, beat some people up a little bit and get some pressure on the quarterback. It's amazing how much of a difference that makes. And Gebbia definitely looked like he was not sure where the rush was coming from and how to escape that pressure just a little bit. And his throws, I think, reflected that for about the first 3 quarters. So yeah, very, very cool to see a defense that looked competent for long stretches.
Yeah. And I think, it's kind of the classic thing. A lot of Oregon State's yards and a lot of their big plays came after WSU took a 3-touchdown lead.
Yes.
And so you can kind of assume, we don't know this for sure, but you can kind of assume like the defense gets a little more vanilla at that point. They're just playing to keep guys in front of them, stuff like that. Because definitely Gebbia was finding guys a little more. Maybe the pocket was a little cleaner. Maybe our guys were getting a little tired too. That could be a thing. Although they were heavily rotating the defensive line at any point they could. But yeah, it's definitely like Gebbia's final line looked fine, 34-48, but he up until, it was 28-7. I think maybe it was like 10-20 for like 100 yards at that point. Like, so he was definitely flustered. So the defense definitely did really well while the offense was figuring its shit out. And that was very helpful, because if the defense came out and was crap right away and WSU's in a 14-0 hole and you got your freshman quarterback in a 14-0 hole, that's a whole different story. But yeah, you got guys like, a guy that made a couple plays, Amir Crowder. He's only credited with 1 tackle for loss, a sack, but I feel like he had another. Maybe it was just not quite a tackle for loss, but I seem to remember him pulling a running back down behind the line. But Ron Stone got plenty of pressure, forced a fumble, had a sack that didn't even count because they accepted the holding penalty instead.
And he still had a sack and a half.
Yeah, he still had a sack and a half on top of that.
He could have had a 2.5 sack game.
Yeah. We definitely just saw lots of penetration from front 4, and having 4 down linemen again, that was interesting, and it definitely looked a lot bigger than you would expect, especially in certain personnel groupings. On 3rd down, they definitely get smaller. Like, they're definitely rotating the smaller, like, pass rush guys. Because that Stone, you see Stone, I saw Stone a couple times move to the middle, like move to like a tackle position on 3rd down from the end position. So they definitely do some personnel groupings. And as Zane wrote, and we've referenced this last time, Jake Dickert is used to working with small defensive lines, so maybe that's part of what he's doing is getting them in the right kind of personnel groups. And we used to see, speaking of the Seahawks, we used to see them do this too. They'd move the ends in on inside on obvious passing downs and just
you'd have Michael Bennett playing inside and
so this is it's a strategy, and it was interesting to watch, and I mean, if that front 4, front 7 is causing havoc, it makes a huge difference, right? Like just to be able to like cover on the back end, because we had some guys that were doing okay on the back end. I think Aiden Hector was, like, especially playing his very first game, true freshman, made some nice plays. George Hicks, I thought, played pretty well. Daniel Isom definitely has some room for improvement. He looked like he was, kind of a little bit lost at times. But I think Justice Rogers was better than I expected. Jahab Woods, you just didn't see as much, but he didn't have to.
Which is okay.
Yeah, he didn't have to do as much as what he has had to do in the past. Like he's not cleaning up something. He's just there. And when you're, you get like Hobbs had 3 tackles, Crowder had 3 tackles, Stone had 3 tackles. Like when you got the big guys, get it like. Rogers had a couple tackles. Like it's when you got the big guys getting in on tackles, that's a good sign.
Yep.
So that Oregon State's. I don't know if Oregon State's offensive line is any good. They returned some guys. They lost some guys. I don't know. But if
what
at
I
least
do
they
know
beat
is we
someone.
didn't do that even against bad Lions last year.
Oh, definitely not. We didn't do it against Oregon State last year. It was just good to. It's always good to see that happen. And the Oregon State's final like offensive stats look pretty good, but I'm looking at even with that kind of like barrage in the fourth quarter and in the end of the third quarter, they still only ended up at 5.6 yards per play. Yeah, which means they were having to work for what they were getting.
Yep. I think that the biggest thing for me, my biggest takeaway was that the defense looked like it knew what it was doing.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like that is sort of an extremely low bar, right? But at the same time, it's like, well, we didn't clear that low bar very often last year, where the defense looked like it knew what it was doing. It looked like it was, basically just aware of the game. So to have a defense that, again, looked like it knew what it was doing. It looked like guys were in the positions they needed to be in. When there was a completion, they were rallying to the ball and tackling.
Yes. Yeah.
There weren't too many
Swarming
missed tackles. There weren't too many missed tackles through the first 3 quarters. That dropped off a little bit in the fourth, which I think is to be expected. Given what Rolovich said about how many guys they were missing, and then just the fact that it's the first game, they had a shortened or kind of a weird training camp. Everything was just sort of, it's not a surprise that in the fourth quarter they were tired. Oregon State ends up running 80 plays. That's a lot, so it's not a shock they got tired, and that's okay. I think they'll be all right in the end, and average-ish defense will really will take them a long way most of the time, presuming that the offense is kind of what we think it is. So I one thing I wrote in my column that's gonna publish on Monday was that look, 38 points was not enough, would not have been enough to win 5 out of the 9 Pac-12 games last year.
Yeah.
38 points is a lot. I mean, it's not an overwhelming amount, but that's a fair amount of points.
It would not have been enough to beat Oregon State last year.
Right? Like, wouldn't have been enough to beat Oregon State, wouldn't have been enough to beat UCLA, wouldn't have been enough to beat Utah, wouldn't have been, on down, right? So, for the defense to do enough for 38 points to win comfortably, is a real feather in their cap, and they play hard. They seem to play smart. They seem to know where they were going. There were a couple times, like we mentioned Isom, right? Like on that one touchdown, he seemed to kind of get a little lost on that crossing route and then pick his own guy off, which was, kind of a bummer. But
yeah, I think he got caught watching the quarterback too much.
Yeah,
on that one.
And he kind of looked like he was looking one way and then looking the other, and then stepped right into the path of his teammate trying to cover the crossing route, and so. But the biggest thing is that they looked like they knew what they were doing, which prevented the big backbreaking plays that were such a killer last year. And if you can do that, like I said, you can go a long way. I mean, I don't know if you're gonna hold down Oregon, for example, this weekend just by doing that, but you'll probably hold down Stanford just by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably hold down Cal just by doing that to some degree. Now, Cal's defense is a different beast, but I mean, that you'll have some success by just being, assignment sound and rallying and making a sure tackle. So, that was fun to see. That was nice to see.
Yeah. I think overall there's positives on the defense because I wasn't expecting a lot. Like, I didn't want to expect too much improvement or anything because, like we talked about, it's the same guys. But there definitely was different. Jackson looked pretty solid, and he didn't play much last year. Crowder looked good, and he so that just
and Jalen Watson, by the way, JUCO cornerback who was headed to USC twice. We talked about him last week on our preview. I do not recall Gebbia throwing his direction very often.
Yeah, he still ended up with 6 tackles.
Yeah, I mean, probably the vast majority of the throws went toward Hicks, especially in the second half, which, and Hicks did okay. I mean, it wasn't, again, he wasn't getting burned over the top and giving up massive chunk plays, so that's fine. But that's a good sign that maybe we had have a cornerback who was deterring a quarterback from throwing his direction. That's pretty cool. Makes a big difference too.
They made Gebbia for about 2.5 quarters look really, really bad.
Really bad.
Like, I was like, who the hell is this guy?
Horrendously bad. Former 4-star guy, went to Nebraska, transferred. Like, it was, for 2.5 quarters, it was like, well, now I see why he couldn't play at Nebraska. like now I see why he transferred, because he's horrible. But yeah, once he kind of figured some stuff out, he looked a bit better. The arm strength is only so. Like that was a little weird, man. You get him off his spot and he's got to move a little bit, and he's just throwing ducks into the ground, 3 yards in front of guys. But once he kind of settled in, and again, I think the pass rush maybe got a little tired. Maybe not getting quite as much pressure, and then he was, and the coverage I think was a little soft too. I think they were maybe playing the clock a little bit, as you mentioned. So.
And Jermar Jefferson still got 3 touchdowns, so he's up to 11 against WSU in 3 years, but he's 0-3.
Someone pointed out he's still a junior too, and I'm just like,
yeah,
what? Like, are we sure? Are we like, he could potentially be around to terrorize us for 2 more years? I'm not okay with that. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
like he could finish with like 20 touchdowns against us. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like Luke Falk against Oregon State. His career
just like that. It's
just absurd. Like he had like
that
22
guy's still
touchdown
playing
passes or something.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I mean, considering he ran for about 500 yards against us last year, I guess I'll take 120 on 21 attempts.
Yeah, but overall positives on defense. I mean, they're not perfect. We didn't expect them to be. They're not going to be, the best defense in the world, but if they're just a little bit worse or a little bit around average, then that's fine. That's
they allow
huge
28 points a game, if they allow 28 points a game, I like our chances to win 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, absolutely. So put a bow on that. We can't go any further without pointing out that WSU has now beaten Oregon State 7 times in a row.
All of the shots of Jonathan Smith on the sideline were of a coach that was like, I can't believe I'm losing to these assholes again.
Yeah, and it's
so
funny.
funny.
It's Rolovic's 2nd time in a row beating Oregon State. And obviously he has some personal vendetta there with Oregon State recruiting his signed players, which he took exception to.
Yep.
I will say, back to the offense real quick. Hamilcar Rashed did absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And he is a preseason All Pac-12 player. We mentioned him in the preview. That was the guy
we were worried about.
And he had 2 tackles, no tackles for loss, which is no sacks and whatever, so that was great to see.
He was bearing down on de Laura a couple times.
Yeah, but de Laura said
de Laura did his thing. So
that's always fun. So we kind of put a dent in his all Pac-12 campaign. So
sorry, buddy.
Sorry, man. But yeah, so 1-0, 38-28. Love Harris getting that clinching touchdown instead of just running the clock out because it's way more fun. Oh, and the end, of course, the hilarious kicking a field goal on second down to try to give yourself time to score again, and then your kicker just misses it, and then the game is over. So that's always funny.
It was pretty funny.
You're outsmarting yourself, you know?
I mean, it was the right call. Like, you know, at that point you go, okay, do I have a better in trying to get a touchdown? Am I just going to run out of time? Well, yeah, okay, fine. Take your 3 points, and then maybe you can get an onside kick and a Hail Mary or something. So it was the right call, but it didn't make it any less funny.
Yeah,
when he missed it,
he just shanks it. Like, sorry, buddy. I will say, I think I liked Rolovich's aggressiveness overall. He went for it a few times, but I'm glad he did. Yeah, like I think he was appropriate on it. They didn't have like a lot of their third downs were like third and very long or deep in territory. So like there wasn't a ton of decisions, but there was definitely a couple. Like we talked about, Renard Bell after dropping a pass came and made the, you know, I think it was as the third quarter switched to the fourth quarter, came out, they ran the play, caught that fourth down ball. Yep. I love them going for it in that position there around the 40-yard line or 35 or so. I think it was a position where Mazza definitely could have hit the field goal. I think they're around the 30, but you still just, you know, whatever, go for 7, don't go for 3. And they did, and that worked out. So yeah, I just, you know, I like watching that sort of aggressiveness. I think Mark or Zane, I think it was Zane, has pointed out that Rolovich was actually more likely to go for it on fourth and such than Leach last year. So
yeah,
I don't think
Leach got really conservative.
Whenever Leach had a good kicker, I feel like we've talked this to death. We don't have to talk about that. But anyways, so like Rolovich has that good kicker and he's still going for it. I like, even with the freshman QB, love it. I think there maybe was one time I don't know. I can't think of a time. I mean, yeah, the third and long runs always frustrate you, but then we busted a 49-yard run from McIntosh. It's like, no, third and long draws so forever. Bad. But yeah, okay, 38-28. Cougs are 1-0. Got Oregon coming into town next week, 4 p.m. on Fox. We'll preview that.
That's
on
like
Big Fox.
I mean, that's a big-time game, man.
Yeah.
That's like,
I mean, that Fox wanted WSU and Oregon.
On the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Yeah. I mean, that's
gonna be a lot of eyes on a lot of eyes, and I
looked at the lineup leading up to it. The game that leads into it is USC Arizona, so there's going to be lots of people watching. Even though that probably won't be a great game, there's going to be a lot of people watching because it's USC. Right?
USC, they're ranked.
Yeah, and so, you know, they're going to watch that. It leads right into us at 4, which is also, you know, 7 p.m. East Coast time. Like, people on the East Coast will watch. So, yeah, I mean, it's a national over-the-air broadcast, like the whole 9 yards. Like, it's a really, really cool opportunity.
But no pressure, guys. It's fine.
No pressure. None whatsoever. And I love the idea of Oregon having to come up. I don't know how cold it's going to be in Pullman, but I hope it's going to be really, 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 really cold. Like, really cold.
Hey, our quarterback's from Hawaii. Maybe not too cold.
yeah, maybe that's true. But he's been there, at least.
Oh, yeah. I saw, I think Theo shared his Instagram story. He was playing in the snow. So maybe he's enjoying it.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, hold on. I can tell you.
Saturday, 41 degrees and sleet, like rain, snow mix.
Yeah, that's pretty miserable.
Yeah. Let's see. About 4 p.m., it's going to be raining. All right. Well, at least we're not in the air raid anymore.
Mine says 38 degrees and no rain at 4 p.m.
What do you? I'm just looking at I was looking on Google.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at dark sky, so.
Okay.
But still, chance of 11% chance of precipitation at that point. Feels like 30 degrees is what it's.
All right. Well, yeah, 10-mile-an-hour wind. All right, let's run the ball, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing we've alluded to multiple times is WSC missing quite a few players.
Yeah.
Nick Rolovich had 32 players. There's some contention over him being a little surly about answering a follow-up question of, is that coronavirus related?
We just won a game. You're not allowed. You shouldn't be asking me about that. Like,
yeah, he just wants to be positive, which,
like, fine, but it's like, then don't be like, we're missing 32 guys. like if you're gonna say we're missing 32 guys, the first question right now,
just
anyone
expect
is
it to
gonna have,
come.
yeah, the first question anyone's gonna have is, do you have a COVID outbreak on your team? Like,
yeah, at least just say like, well, we can't really, we don't want to get into that, or like no, because earlier. WSU from Pat Chun had released their own numbers that 4 total student athletes had tested positive for coronavirus in the last, it was 4,400 tests or something. So he could have just cited that stat. It was 5, I think, 5. And he could have cited that stat. He could have said,
I mean, there are a lot of ways he could have framed it.
There's instead of just getting surly about it and come on, man, like you have to know what you have to know if you give that piece of information.
Yeah. I get what he was trying to do, right? Yeah. I mean, like, I'm sure you do too. Like, it's he was trying to say, like, look at what we overcame. I'm so proud of my guys. Yeah. Great, except like
look at the world right now.
Yeah, we had 2 games in the conference canceled this week. Yeah. Like, you gotta know that's the deal right now.
Yep.
Is everything revolves around that question.
Yep.
It was a completely fair question, and to get a little, snippy about it, I think was. I mean, I'm not gonna browbeat the guy for it. Like, whatever, I get it. I mean, he's a coach, and coaches coach, and
he was just happy he didn't want to talk about.
But I'm also like, come on, man.
A substantial part of your salary is
if you don't want to talk about it, then don't talk about it.
Yeah,
if you don't want to talk about who's not there, then don't talk about who's not there. Like, this is why Mike Leach, if everybody's like, why doesn't Mike Leach ever talk about, this is why.
He just said, I'm never going to talk about it.
If you just say you're never going to talk about it, then you never talk about it.
Then every time, then reporters, they'll ask the question, but they know the answer already.
They'll be like, they just do it I saw Max Borghi wasn't there.
Yeah.
Happy and healthy.
Happy and healthy.
We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about who wasn't here. We're only going to talk about who was here. Like, if that's what you want to do, then do that. Don't anyway, whatever. The reality is, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting because, like, I'll be honest, he probably gets less press scrutiny here than he did at Hawaii. Which is sort of
Hawaii's
like
the big program in Hawaii. That's
a
big deal.
It's like a weird quirk of the job, right? I mean, he went to a Power 5 job, but it's in the least media-intensive market in the entire conference. And he came from a Group of 5 job, which is probably one of, if not the most intense. Intense probably isn't the right word, but just sort of like media-focused jobs in the Group of 5.
Well, yeah, because it's
like the
Hawaii,
whole island.
Like, yeah, that's their team. Like, they don't have like a professional sports team. They don't have anything else. The Hawaii Rainbow Warriors are their team there.
Yep. And they get tons of coverage, and so people pay attention, and yeah. So, it's yeah. I don't know. I wish he wouldn't have been snippy about it, but whatever.
I do think that's a bit in his personality from reading.
Apparently it wasn't all COVID. Like, it seemed like the answer to me implied that it was. Like the answer implies, we're not going to talk about that because
it could be COVID, like, just a precaution, like they're
right, the contact tracing,
contract tracing or whatever. Which seems like that would be something that you could share, or maybe they're just afraid to share it because they don't want to see what happened with Cal and UW. That's
but Chun, Chun did make it sound like they haven't had, they're not having an outbreak. So I don't know. I mean, they've obviously had a lot of injuries, which is not totally unexpected.
Yeah, not surprising given the timing of the season and obviously we were missing guys on both sides. Max Borghi, Tyrese Ross and that's why Aiden Hector played a lot more probably than he was going to. They were missing some big guys. Obviously, that made you a little more scared coming in. made you lean towards more. Oh, this is just a practice season. It's fine. We don't need to win. But man, once they had that, once they had the lead at half, it's like no, let's win this game. I don't want to lose. We've beaten them 6 times in a row. I want to make it 7. Like,
it did not take me long to settle into being very to care a lot about the outcome of the game. So
absolutely, but yeah. So as you talked about, there was 2 games that were canceled this weekend in the Pac-12. Straight up canceled. So maybe not going to be replayed then, because there's really not timing a window for it.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're canceled. I don't know. They could potentially, I guess, make them up during that.
I mean,
crossover week.
They're obviously a lot easier to make up when you don't have to worry about fans and all that stuff. Like,
right.
But a football team is, and you mentioned this in Slack. It's not like a basketball team or something else. Like, there's that huge equipment truck that has to drive somewhere.
Yeah. There was no way to. They talked to somebody floated the idea of UW and Arizona playing, and I mean there's just no way. Like there's just those trucks take 3 days to get where they're going. Like that there's no way.
Well,
that wasn't happening.
Let's look at the games actually played. So kind of the big one that got the most attention. Was the Pac-12 South battle, USC and Arizona State.
9 a.m. game.
That 9 a.m. big noon Saturday game. And yeah, I didn't really follow it until the end, so I was just going by Twitter. But I think you and PJ kind of convinced me that was actually a pretty good thing for the conference. Arizona State got out to a lead. Arizona State, Herm Edwards does what he does. And, he's an old school guy and, they didn't close him down. USC, came back and got that, late win.
Yeah. That game was wild, man.
That was a very wild game. I thought USC had left too much time. I thought Arizona State was going to go score and win. Yeah. But they fizzed out at about midfield. So it was that was a very good game. I think it helps that
UCLA needs an onside kick to hang in there.
USC
they're down by a couple USC needs an onside kick to hang in there, so they're down by a couple touchdowns. They get a touchdown, and then and it was kind of a funny touchdown, and then they get the onside kick after Arizona State, botches the catch on the onside kick, and then they score again. It just it was just a highly entertaining, just really fun game.
Clay Helton getting wins that he never deserves.
Of course.
Just by the sheer fact of coaching USC players.
Of course.
And
all those awesome receivers.
Yeah, geez, man.
Ridiculous embarrassment of riches, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of NFL teams that don't have that much talent on the wide receivers.
And, Arizona State it was so crazy because Arizona State was just completely in control of that game. I mean, I'm talking USC was, they were just sinking. Arizona State had that thing. It felt like it was in the bag. It was done.
And that definitely seems like the two
just fell apart.
Yeah. And those are the two teams you would expect in Utah. The three that would contend for the. So it's a big game.
Yeah. And it definitely was everything that anybody would have hoped for in that 9 a.m. slot, right? I mean, if you're going to put a game on TV at 9 a.m., then this is what you want, right? You want this super entertaining game that people are going to flip over and watch. The only bummer was it was placed opposite of Michigan, Indiana. So Fox did the old ABC regional thing where if you were in a certain area, ESPN, you got if you were in a certain area, you got the USC Arizona State game on Fox, and then Michigan and Indiana was on FS1. Or if you were in another part of the country, it was, flip-flopped, right? So, I assume most of the country was watching Michigan, Indiana. But, at the very least, those highlights were on all day, and I don't think...
Well, yeah, a lot of the country was watching Michigan this last week, Jeff.
And Wilner makes the point. Yes, that is true. One of John Wilner's big things is that sometimes I think Wilner's kind of like over the top with the stuff that he believes, but other times I think he's right. And I think this is one of those things that I think he's right, is that no, it matters that those highlights play all day over and over and over again. You cannot, you play all these late night games and then people wake up and they're already on to the NFL, and it just doesn't matter. So to have that going all day, I think does make a difference. And it was cool that, the conference had a really good game, a really exciting game, and the kind of excitement that is going to be on those highlight shows where it's like, oh, look at this crazy thing that happened. Like USC was down by 2 touchdowns, and look, then they scored, and look, they onside, and look, now they scored again. And, wait, is Arizona State going to, So really, really good. Really, really fun. And yeah, USC's on top of the South, which is not totally
tied
unexpected.
With Colorado.
Yes, tied with Colorado. Carl Durrell revenge game.
Gotta love it,
UCLA.
man.
How about that? Carl Durrell, the guy that everybody forgot was coaching Colorado.
Definitely, everyone forgot that. Every time you hear
man, that's who they hired. That's right.
Like a surprising hire, but again, it's one of those things where you wonder how a guy never got another chance. He wasn't that bad at UCLA.
Yeah.
But
he went to the NFL, right? Wasn't that the deal? Like he was an NFL assistant. And
yeah, but you think he would have gotten another.
You would think.
Yeah, but
he wasn't that bad at UCLA.
UCLA people hate him because UCLA thinks that they should be
UCLA
winning
hates
Rose Bowls.
everybody.
Yeah, they hate every coach. If you're not even though
you're not
there's
Terry Donahue,
you're
just
if there's even though there's very little history of them winning a bunch of Rose Bowls and stuff, they think that they should be that that school. They're definitely if you're ranking the programs in the conference, they're definitely below USC and UW and Stanford has passed them recently, and Oregon has passed them recently, and WSU's been a better program for half a decade, almost a decade. It's you guys are who you are. Maybe you should accept it. I remember I had one of my master teachers I've talked about before. He's from UCLA, and he's that arrogant UCLA prick fan that you're just you come to expect, and he would just always complain about how expensive it was to live around the campus, and so but they couldn't, because their public school paid the coaches enough to be able to live around there, so they couldn't they couldn't attract good coaches. And I'm just like, dude, you're talking to a WSU alum right now. What are you talking about, man? Oh, poor UCLA.
Yeah.
We're literally
feel sorry for
you
UCLA,
could fill your
right?
team. You could have a team that would go 6-6 by walking to 2 high schools within your. With 5 miles
within 5 miles of the school.
Your school, just come on, just stop whining. We did that was in 2007, and WSU stomped UCLA that year, and I definitely put that into my curriculum.
That was the Dwight Tardy game, right?
That was the Dwight Tardy game, where he went up for over 200 and then also injured
200
himself.
yards. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah. But yeah, so UCLA turns the ball over a bunch, gets down real big to Colorado, and then Colorado hangs on for dear life. And
I think
prevails.
some of that shine has worn off Chip Kelly, Craig.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when UCLA hired him, I was like, oh, shit.
Oh my God, UCLA's going to be good.
UCLA's going to be good. And then it was like, oh, no, they're not good. Didn't stop them from beating us last year, but
I mean, they're kind of, they're offensively they were good, but those turnovers, man, it's a fumbles though. So it's I don't know, if they didn't fumble the ball a bunch, or if they recovered more of those fumbles, they don't lose.
Yeah.
But still, they give up 525 yards to Colorado. They give up 264 rushing yards to Colorado. It was only 5.7 yards of play, so they weren't getting shredded, but still, it's man, like no one thinks highly of Colorado right now.
Yeah, no. Colorado was a team. People were like, okay, that either A, they're going to go winless, or B, maybe they beat Arizona, right? Like that was kind of what everybody was thinking. New coach and lots and lots and lots of pieces to replace. That was looking like a pretty substantial rebuild going on there. So
I don't know what it is about Colorado, Boulder, maybe the elevation or whatever. They always seem to, like, in those South games, just pick someone off they shouldn't in Boulder. Like they always seem to do. And not that UCLA is that great either, but UCLA is definitely more talent rich than Colorado is.
I think you would think that, yeah. So I don't know, man. The farther we get from Chip Kelly at Oregon, the more you sort of scratch your head and go, huh.
Yeah, but then you look at what Mark Helfrich did right after, and you're like, huh? Like what? Huh. Maybe it was Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, maybe it's just having a quarterback like that makes life a lot
Jeremiah
easier.
Masoli, like they just,
Yeah. It's probably good to have Marcus Mariota. I don't know. I think that
he's pretty
good.
idea. He was pretty good.
All right.
Well, not in the NFL, but he's pretty good in college.
He was good in college, though.
Yeah. And then the other game, because it's only 4, and we were one of them. We talked about that one for a bit.
Yep.
Stanford and Oregon, not the matchup that it used to be.
No.
That used to be the battle for the North, but Stanford is I don't think anyone expects them to be good this year. And Oregon,
handled them pretty easily.
Statistically, you don't think it's like, oh, they destroyed them. Like Oregon had the edge in total yards, but not by a lot. Stanford 7.2 yards of play versus 7.5 Oregon. Obviously, I'm citing all this stuff because I don't really watch the game very much. So I'm just trying to figure out what the hell happened.
I mean, I'm looking forward to watching it.
But listen to this: Oregon was 9 of 11 on third down. That's gonna help.
But they also had 3 turnovers.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like, they turned the ball over. Stanford didn't. Then
Stanford did miss 4 field goals.
That's the story right there, because that means Stanford moved into Oregon. That's why they have so many yards and 413 yards, only 14 points.
They were like 4 of 13 on third downs.
Yep, and then when you have Oregon going 9 of 11, although. In Shaw's defense, and this may have been a late trying to catch up thing, they did go 2 of 2 on fourth down, which you don't expect Shaw to ever go for it on fourth down.
No, you don't.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm thinking, Oregon 9 of 11 on third down, Oregon actually finishing their drives with touchdowns versus missing field goals. Because if Stanford makes all 4 of those field goals, suddenly it probably looks more like the score that you would expect based on the stats,
right? You'd have 35-26.
Yeah, which would be a very weird score, but when 4 field goals. But it's college kickers. You shouldn't expect them to make all 4 field goals. Although Jet Toner.
Like he's been pretty good.
Yeah.
But
worst day at the office ever.
every kicker can end up like this. That's what's so like crazy about kickers. Like there is not a kicker on the planet that has not had a stretch, maybe not missing 4 in a game, but like they've all had a stretch where they've all of a sudden they just can't kick. Like every single one of them. It's the craziest thing, man. It is the craziest thing. But yeah, I'm like I said, I'm really curious to watch the game.
Toner? Do you think the toner needs to be replaced, or does it still have some life? Because no one likes replacing the toner. That's a pain in the ass.
Needs a refill. I don't know if you got to get the authentic toner or if you can get like the knockoff cartridge. But
I mean, yeah, it's like what do you got left? What are you spending on this toner? It's not a position you want to spend too much money on. You really want to cut costs on the toner. Not use a scholarship, things like that. But all right.
Stanford, by the way, was playing without their starting quarterback.
Yeah, that's
Davis Mills.
Yeah, Davis Mills, who played against WSU last year.
Yep. So is probably maybe a tiny bit worrisome for Oregon.
They lost their quarterback, who's now just tearing it up in the air raid in the SEC. So
he may not have been starting anyway. He would have started this game, because Mills would have been out, but he may not have won that job, which might have been why he was moving on.
I don't know. Like last year, it seemed like Mills was better.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. Like I remember he was injured. I mean, we're talking about Keijo Costello. Sorry, we're just saying he and like everyone knows. But so I remember Costello, I think, was injured for the WSU game, and I remember when I was doing the preview, I saw that Mills was going to play. I was like, I'd rather Costello play than Mills.
Right. Yep.
Like Mills is better. So yeah, that was a big loss for them because their quarterbacks didn't play that well.
Yeah.
So maybe Stanford's a little better. I can guarantee you that Davis Mills will play when we play them, because we have gotten probably too much. We have a backlog of like backup quarterback luck from the Leach years, and so we're just gonna get like last year. I think we hit all the starters, like even ones that had missed time either before or after, and I think we're just gonna keep hitting the starters. I think we're just got a backlog of that. So expect Davis Mills to be back. Was that a contact tracing thing? I can't remember.
I'm not sure if it was or not, but yeah, I mean, they ran the ball a ton, 31 rushes to 26 passes. But I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I keep saying this. I want to watch this game because I keep looking at the stat. Like most of the time, the stats will tell you a story, right? And I'm looking at these stats, and I'm like,
it doesn't say 3 touchdown difference.
I'm not seeing the story here. Like when I first looked at it, and I saw like the yardage and the yards per play, and I was like, okay. So obviously Stanford probably had a couple turnovers, right?
I did the same thing, yeah.
And I was like, no, they had no turnovers, and Oregon had 3, and wait, what? It was just like, I was like, this isn't adding up at all. So I don't know. Maybe it was just really, really, really unfortunate sequencing. Maybe it was something goals, like that, and then the missed field goals, right? Like, so they'd pile up yards, between the 20s, and then miss a field goal, I guess. But yeah,
I will say
definitely weird.
I will say that offense putting up 400 plus yards on Oregon makes me feel a little better. Like maybe Oregon's defense isn't as good as everyone expects them to be.
Well, I think that might be the driving force behind the line coming down from -10 when it opened to -7.
Yeah.
Like pretty quickly. Now, that doesn't necessarily obviously mean anything. I mean, WSU opened as a 3-point favorite against Oregon State and then was a 3-point underdog by the time the game started. So, and then obviously we ended up, winning the game by 10. So the original line was closer to being accurate anyway. But it does reflect sort of perception, right? And the perception is that maybe Oregon is not as strong, or that WSU is better than people sort of anticipated initially. So, or maybe a combination of the two. So when Stanford lights up Oregon in the second half, and we did what we did in the first game, and the game's at home, which I think will make a difference. And yeah, so I mean, I like our chances to keep up to some degree, and maybe even put a little bit of a scare in those little duckies.
Yeah, who knows? I'm looking forward to it. It was a lot of fun to watch Cougar football again. I enjoyed it even more than I thought I was going to. It was fun to just get hyped for the game, put all my gear on, and just sit in my living room by myself. It was. I had B there for a bit before she had to go to bed, and then her mom went to bed because she has to get up early to work in the morning, and so
stupid job.
Yeah, stupid job. But not that she probably would have bailed. She doesn't want to watch me stress out over the football game.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah. So,
our partners are both like, nah, you're not very fun to watch a game with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I was watching the Seahawks game with B today, and while she was watching something on her little kid Kindle I got for her, to mostly just to distract her when I don't want to pay attention to her, and I shouted about something at the Seahawks game, and she just goes, "Daddy, I don't like that sound." Like, okay, I'll try not to make that specific sound.
Yeah, well,
again.
I don't like it when Russell Wilson throws an interception.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So we're even.
I can't control that sound that emits
Sorry.
from my mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, like, come on. I don't like it when you cry.
Yeah, I really don't like that sound. I think it's
I
like
like
I
it
think
when
I'm,
you wipe your poop on the wall, but I don't yell at you about that, do I?
hey, she didn't wipe poop.
Or maybe I do a little bit.
She didn't wipe poop. Would have been easier to clean. She wiped her butt paste stuff all over. That was way harder. That's been way harder to clean.
Well, yeah, that stuff's meant to, stay put.
Yeah, it's meant to like not be
That's kind of
affected
the whole
by
point.
water in any way.
That's kind of the whole point.
But I will say OxyClean. That's the ticket. That's the ticket.
I would have thought maybe some Dawn soap or something, but
yeah, that we tried that. It didn't really do much. That like it's a powerful substance that
yeah, it is
that butt paste. Yeah, I think that's all we wanted to discuss. So we're gonna have we're gonna get back to our football season cadence. So we're gonna have a preview for you. I expect that on Friday. We'll do our game preview. That'll be a shorter podcast. We usually try to keep those 30 to 40 minutes.
Yep.
For those of you who are returning, because I know a lot of you left after last football season. And
I don't blame them.
I don't blame you either. We were talking about shit. It was fine. But yeah. So yeah, we'll have a preview of Oregon on Friday, and I would expect we'll record on Thursday, and that'll be on Friday. That's our general cadence on that. And then going forward, we'll probably have the recap podcast. We'll probably record every Sunday, so we'll have that on Monday. Maybe we'll be bored enough to do it on Saturdays sometimes. If there's
depends
an earlier
on what time
game.
the game is played.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely not if the game's at 7:30.
Yeah,
or even 4 o'clock.
Yeah, 4 o'clock's too late. I don't.
Maybe if the game is at noon.
Yeah, maybe if the game's at noon. Like 4 o'clock gets over at 8. I'm just gonna not want to do podcast right after. It doesn't have not enough time to simmer on the game. It'll be more reactionary.
Nope.
If you like this, subscribe on whatever service, iTunes, whatever. Spotify, I know, is getting very popular as well. And then if you could rate us 5 stars specifically, and also leave a comment. Say something cool like Jeff is just has the best, smoothest voice I've ever heard. And,
well, they don't have to lie.
no, you should lie.
Okay. All right. We endorse lying.
Yeah. Just say, I love that they never talk about politics and that they... you could say, I love their recommendations on butt paste for your child.
Yeah.
OxyClean.
OxyClean.
But yeah, so you can follow Twitter at Pod versus Everyone. That's Jeff. That is all Jeff.
Yep.
I do not claim any of those tweets. Like, don't blame me. At the Craig
Whatever,
Powers
snowflake.
is me. Yeah, at the Craig Powers is me. There was a lot of gloating on Saturday. About certain things. So if you're of a particular persuasion, you may not enjoy that. But there's also a lot of pictures of my adorable daughter, and there's a lot of thoughts on
lots of Coug
talk, and Sounders and Seahawks and Borussia Dortmund and Tottenham and whatever the hell else is on my mind. Let's see. Our email, podvseveryone@gmail.com. I got an email today from someone. Let me check that out real quick. So they were mentioning basketball. So Doug, I'll probably email you back, but it's going to be really hard for us to get Ken Pomeroy and John Andrushek on again because basketball is actually happening. But we will definitely try our best to get either one of those or both back at some point because, we would love to have John all the time, and then we could pass him off.
I'm sure he's got so much extra time in the basketball season.
Yeah, but we'll try our best, to get him or Ken on again because it's a treat for us. We appreciate anyone you want to send us emails. You got questions, comments, whatever. That'd be great.
Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah, that's all the plugs, I think. Next week, Oregon.
Yeah.
That
a little preview.
Got to start that win streak against Oregon again,
Yeah. I feel it.
Feel it.
All right, go Cougs, Craig.
Go Cougs, man.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.